What is going on, RotoGrinders? Dean here. It's Dean 78904 if you want to get all technical on me. It is 2:30 on the East Coast, 11:30 on the West Coast, 1:30 Tennessee time, of course. Of course, that means it's time for the flagship show here at RotoGrinders. It's called Grinderslive. Join me today, intimate show, two-man booth. It's myself and Jordan. You all know him as Blender. What's going on, Blender? How are things going?
You slowed down on the times. You're so used to memorizing that it's on at 5:30 and 4:30, and then 3 hours. Is that okay? Whatever.
Math and time zones are hard, man.
Well, if you can't even get the math right on the time zones, I should really weigh the projections that you're using.
What time is it in Dubuque right now?
In Dubuque, that's Central Time Zone.
All right, fair enough.
1:30.
That was more like what state is Dubuque in? That's also what I was asking.
It's in Iowa.
I know. Yeah, I know. Just throwing some curveballs at you. Yeah, hey, we're early. Yeah, of course. I know the flagship show does not normally start this time, but the sites are not cooperating. I wouldn't say no. It's not doing the same thing. That's all. They're giving us choices, which I appreciate. DK, Draftkings, they have a 6-game slate. Their first game start at 4:05. With they're including the Washington Philadelphia game and the New York series as well, and then of course we have a 3-hour pause. So FanDuel's got a 4-game slate, DK's got a 7-game slate, and Jordan, we were touching on this pre-show a little bit. These two slates could not be any different for multiple reasons. Besides just not just the fact that they're adding in different games, but just the salaries are DK specifically are really goofy. What happened over there at DraftKings?
I think someone dropped whatever server algorithm thing that they do to do the pricing. And just like, oh yeah, Taiwan Walker for whatever reason, just a half off sale. And then the Mets, I don't know, what did they put him in? Like, did they take the Mets out of the server computer, whatever, all the pricing in, and then they just threw it into into some type of toilet, and then it came out and it's like, okay, no one's priced more than 3K other than Robinson Cano and Todd Frazier, who his price is from when he was on the Rangers. So he's priced up more than Alonso. But the thing is, for the DK slate, because of the Taiwan Walker price and because of the Mets price, you don't need to do both. It's one of those things where, do you really need the Mets bats, or do you really need Taiwan Walker? And on FanDuel, you don't have that problem at all. The Mets aren't on the slate, and Taiwan Walker's 9,200, and there's no way you play him for 9,200 on FanDuel.
Yeah, it is really interesting, and you could also argue, you can leave, I don't know, you're more of a tournament guy. You'll touch on this. You make the goofier lineups because baseball, and you embrace the variance. But how much are you leaving on the table in DK? In theory, you probably can leave 4K. I don't know. 5K?
I mean, you could, but you could get different and still use all your salaries. So I don't think it's necessary where it's I'm going to play Walker and a Met stack and leave 5K on the table and take Roman Quinn over Bryce Harper. It's like that. There's 6 games on the slate. There's enough options. 6 games, 12 teams, 9 batters, right? We're talking about 108 options. We got you got 12 pitchers. I mean, you're not going to use most of them. So if you do that permutation, you don't have to worry about, you could leave 1,000 on the table, but if you happen to leave 300 to 500, that's not a big deal. But I wouldn't be going out of my way to not take a better batter just for the sake of leaving money on the table.
Yeah, it is really wild. And, the Taiwan Walker thing, I don't understand that price on DK. He's not a great pitcher, but he's a perfectly fine pitcher. And Boston's not good. The ballpark's not great. It's a big total in that game. The total's more on the Toronto side. Toronto's expected to score more runs. And then, like you said, the Mets, I don't know if they have that for 7-inning scoring, or they thought Cole was going to be pitching for the Yankees.
They thought Randy Johnson was going to be pitching based on the Mets price. J.A. Happ is not that good of a pitcher.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. But Polar Bears 3K, Pete Alonso. J.D. Davis is 2.8, McNeil is 2.5, and it is just weird. And it's an interesting push-pull of do I want the cheap Mets or do I want the cheap Walker? And you can absolutely do neither. You can also make lineups that are perfectly fine that have nothing to do with Walker, and you don't need the Mets either because just the way the pricing is. Have you found yourself doing stuff like that as well? And that's probably different.
Currently in my lineups, I'm playing mostly the mid-stakes GPPs. I'm not playing the large field. Typically when I'm on a show, I don't have necessarily the time to make 100 lineups. Even though, we have crunch time, whatever, it's a pinch. So I hand build some. I have no Met stacks. I have them as one-offs. I have some McNeil second base position on DraftKings kind of sucks today. Davis, I mean, I want the righty bats against Hap. So, like, Davis at third base seems fine to me. Or using Alonso, Frazier, I mean, even Chirinos, but I mean, he's 3,500 batting ninth. So I'm more inclined to do that. But, I mean, if you're stacking the Mets, that means you're playing, what, Kershaw, Clevenger? And even then, you still have over 5K left per bat. And it's like,
Yeah.
Then it's like, I guess I'm playing Harper and Soto. I guess I'm playing, a Bellinger or Trout or something. I mean, you can make those lineups, but any lineup that looks like that is going to be, if you stack the Mets today, it's almost impossible not to have a similar lineup to someone.
Well, play Dylan Cease. You can play Dylan Cease with the Kershaw.
But it's still the Mets stack. I mean, it's the vomit stacks that I always talk about.
Sure.
Like, this is underneath a vomit stack. I mean, if we take a look, let's take a look at the Mets starting lineup. The Mets starting lineup is 2,500, 2,800, 3,000, 3,700, 3,200. The 2K guys, if you use Marisnik, you use Ahmed Rosario. I mean, this stack price is like.
Well, you're not. You can use those guys, but I don't think that's the place that people are going to go first. But I hear
even if you use all the expensive guys,
yes, correct. Not even the best players.
You used this lineup, you're paying like 14K. Now, that's, great from a vomit stack perspective, but the problem is that anyone that stacks the Mets 5-man, like, the lineup's going to look the same. I mean, unless you're leaving 3,000 on the table, you're playing 2 expensive pitchers and 3 expensive one-offs because you can. We don't have it's not like we have 2 11K pitchers. It's not like that. So, I'm using the Mets as one-offs at these funky prices.
That's kind of where I'm at. I'm not, and Hap is a guy I want the righties against more than the lefties. I don't know how deep Hap's going to go, but Polar Bear, Alonso at 3K is one of my favorite plays. Like Davis as well at 2.8, but sure, you can play Conforto and Dom Smith, and you can get the McNeil who's leading off at 2.5K, and just for value. And again, we keep talking about it. I don't know how much money how much is salary a thing on this slate. And I want to see what we have as far as our ownership projection for the Mets, because it makes for an interesting conversation. One of the things I always talk about, I'm sure you talk about as well too, is that people want instant gratification. They want to make a lineup. They want to watch their players now. And I always talk about that when the slate locks at 7 and the games are at 10 o'clock and Joe Madden's sleeping and we don't have Madden's lineup just yet. But, the Dodgers don't play until like 8 hours from now. Who's locking in Dodgers now? And also, we don't know what the status of Bellinger. He's been out for several games, and we were talking about this pre-show, and we don't know if they're going to play him. Of course, he's got to be 100%. The Dodgers are currently 28-10. They're cruising. They're going to make the playoffs. It's going to happen, whether they want to or not. So they don't have to play him, but he's an excellent play. And how much do you weight that as far as ownership? Because I strongly believe that and there's been stuff on this, the data out there, West Coast teams outside of the Rockies, if you want to call them West Coast team, typically their ownership skews lower. And partially is probably because of instant gratification. Partially is because lineups aren't out just yet. Do you have a thought on that, and how do you attack such such?
I don't think for this slate it has anything to do with the lineups not being out. I just think that the best projected teams are early. I mean, the Mets obviously are great point per dollar projection because their prices are funky, but the Phillies are going to be chalk. The Blue Jays are going to be chalk with over 10 run total over in Boston, with 5.48 for the Blue Jays, 5.64 for the Phillies. The Yankees are cheap also. And it's like, I don't care about Hap, and Gazelman's going to pitch, 2 or 3
Are those the Yankees, though? Like, you see these names? Are those real? I know they're wearing uniforms that say Yankees on it. Or at least there's pinstripes. Does it say Yankees? I don't think so. But you know what I mean.
Yeah, but you could play Voit for under 4K. You could play Ursula for under 4K. You could play these guys. I mean, they're cheap enough, and it's close to a 5 implied total. So, I think the Padres, I think Machado and Tatis are chalky. So, these late games, the White Sox Royals, no one's owning that game.
I am. I'm going to have some White Sox.
Well, we'll talk about that also. I do as well, because they have over 5 implied run total also. Same for the Dodgers. But I don't think it's because they're late. I just think that because they're more expensive.
Compounded, though. I think it's a little piece of it. No, you think it's a piece of it?
A little, I guess. But I mean, I just think the Phillies are going to be chalk, and the cheap Mets will be chalky. The Padres, the Blue Jays. So if it just so happened that the Phillies game was on at 9 at night, the last game on the slate, it wouldn't be, because you'd still see the ownership, because You're facing Anibal Sanchez. The
Who's
wind's
toast.
blowing out in
Anibal's
Philadelphia with a
toast.
5.6 implied run total.
Yeah. By the way, no McCutcheon in that lineup. You guys check out the lineup. So I started the lineup page up earlier. Roman Quinn is leading off. And if we needed salary, if salary mattered, you would care that Roman Quinn's leading off at 2.3K. I don't know how much we care, but that's interesting, I guess, if nothing else. And against Sanchez and yada, yada, 5.5 total there. But again, how much do we need salary? That leads for a whole other conversation. Who else is not playing baseball today? Gary Sanchez. He's not in the lineup for the Yankees. Higashioka is drawing the catcher spot. He's 2.2K. And again, do we need salary? I have no idea. This is a day where you can definitely get JT Realmuto. Like we'll talk position by position soon. And I'm assuming everybody else can figure that out as well. Catcher is always about wants versus needs, or what is it? I don't need Realmuto. I want him, and it's not that hard to get him. So it'll be really interesting. And we'll talk to FanDuel build as well too. Do want to mention? Let's go ahead and talk about the Sharpside app because we had a winner last night, Jordan. We're streaking. We're going streaking. We're currently.
Do I have to do something? Are we going?
No. You.
I don't have to do anything.
You don't have to do anything until you get to 6, or I get to 6. You can be my personal.
Until I get to 6. What did you say?
6. That's SIX. Yeah. It's a whole other conversation. It's a different stream. That's the night stream. That's for premium, I believe. So once you get a streak that's 6 or higher, you start getting $10 FanDuel credit for every single win you have after that. Once you get to 10, I believe it's 20. Devin, our fabulous multitasking producer, is going to go ahead and drop the link in chat for you guys if you're all unaware. I had the Padres, never in doubt, had the Padres last night.
Never in doubt, right. You had 8 runs in the 8th inning or whatever.
I had a nice stack last night, too. It was a good night for your boy. Could have used one more big hit, but that's kind of how it always is.
I could have used like 6 less hits. The Padres chalk going off.
So you faded the chalk of the Padres.
Of course, whoever's the top stack, I typically don't have much of.
What's weird is that that's not the way it was drawn up. We're supposed to beat up Tehran, and Tehran was good. He was fine. I mean, Machado roped a line drive out to things just hit the ball hard, but to somebody he wasn't clutch. Yeah, but Tehran got lucky with the bases loaded there in the 2nd or 3rd inning or something like that, and he did a good job. And then of course the bullpen. They gave up 8 runs, I believe, in the 7th or 8th inning, something like that. They batted around. It was good times. We had San Diego on the run line. That was our pick. And tonight, we're going back to the run line. We're laying 1.5. Now, the kicker here, as far as getting these wins right, if you guys aren't aware, you got to get it minus 140 or less. So you can't pick the Dodgers minus 312. But you can, Blender. You can pick the Dodgers minus 1.5, and they're minus 139, I think. So we just got it in. Now, it's always scary to play the run line at home. That's the worst. That is the sphincter clincher for sure because when you're on the road, you can, if it's a tie game or something, you can keep scoring and keep scoring. The only way you win the run line at home in a close game late is homers with somebody on base, and that doesn't happen that often. But we think the Dodgers are going to score early, hopefully. And Kershaw's going to shut Arizona down. How about that? Dodgers win 7-3. There you go. And it's not that scary. We're going to go streaking. We'll get our streak to 4 or a couple away from starting to get some FanDuel smackers, FanDuel dollars. Hey, YouTube, what's up? Like, subscribe. Much appreciated. We're going to do our best. I see you're interacting there with YouTube, Jordan. And you have a special relationship. Don't they have to keep your coffee warm? What's the story?
I don't drink coffee anymore, so I don't know what they're keeping. I got a milkshake from Chick-fil-A. So to keep it cold, you got to hit the thumbs up button.
Is that really work though? That's a gimmick. That doesn't really work. There's no.
No, it really works that way. It really does work. If you don't like
what flavor milkshake? Well, what are the options there? Chick-fil-A. What'd you get?
I don't know. Just a vanilla shake.
Oh, well, you do know. You said what flavor? It's vanilla.
Oh, but I didn't know there were other flavors.
I have no idea. I don't partake. But yeah.
I can already tell. See, it's cold. People are hitting the like button.
Are they hitting the like button? There you go. Nice.
It's getting thicker.
Do subscribe. Also, we should mention, tell the people what you did yesterday for NFL because NFL's right around the corner.
What I did yesterday for NFL. I did a lot of other things that had nothing to do with DFS.
That's for premium as well. So
right, that's premium. Only late night premium members. Me and Tyler Tambo, we did a full, and when I mean full, it's full. It's an hour and 45 minutes.
Wow.
Of a tutorial walkthrough of a build process and all the features of Lineup HQ for NFL. So it includes all the stack functionality, all the global build rules, how to think about how the optimizer and the lineup builder works, like how the median projections affect things, how to use your min and max exposure settings on players in order to get the lineups that you want, get stacks, get a game stack of 3+2 or 3+1, secondary stack. So it's an hour and 45 minutes. It's a complete walkthrough. You could watch anytime on this YouTube channel, on the RotoGrinders site. So if you're getting into NFL and you're a premium member to use Lineup HQ, or you just want to learn about the features of Lineup HQ for NFL, that's a free video. Go check it out.
What are you doing for NFL this season? What do you have? What do you have in tech as far as your content?
NFL, I will be hosting the Advanced Sports Analytics Show, which will be on Thursday or Friday, depending on the week, and that's with Brandon Adams or Stuart Gibson.
Really smart people, by the way, if you guys aren't aware. Yes, super smart.
Very, very game theory heavy, analytics driven show. And then Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football, I will be doing a free. All these shows are free. These are not premium shows. Doing Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football before the games, special showdown, kind of showdown Grinderslive type of show. 45 minutes before the game, break down some unique lineup constructions and inactives, things like that to get you prepared for the big showdown contests that night.
Chad is saying you should have got the cookies and cream. That's the chalk. Why would you not get cookies and cream?
It has pieces in it. How do you have a milkshake that has chunks in it?
Are you serious?
I don't want to be drinking and then choke on something.
Oh, I mean, come on. That's not going to happen. You'll be fine. You're an adult.
But I've tried it before, and you get a little, and it gets stuck in the straw, and then you can't get the rest of the milkshake out. No, I just want my nice, smooth, vanilla coffee milkshake. Just no pizza. Give me no
You ever try that bacon milkshake? I think it's like Five Guys has it, I want to say.
A bacon milkshake?
Yeah, it's a thing. It happens. I feel like I've had it before in London for some reason.
You can obviously tell I'm the type of person that I take my orange juice without any pulp.
Oh, 86 the pulp. 86 the pulp.
Why is there crap in there?
Get it out of there. I do not. We agree on something, Blender. Get that pulp out of there. I want no business in that. They're asking in chat, have you guys talked pitchers yet? No. We will. we talked the general slate. We talked the overall slate. It's a 6-gamer on DK. It's a 4-gamer on FanDuel. We have plenty of time. I promise you, we have plenty of time to talk to slate. And it's more of a especially with you. It's good to have you on for this show because this is a really, really good DK specific, especially. It's a great game theory slate.
Every slate is great for game theory.
Yes, but I'm saying this one feels especially true. If that makes sense.
Yes, because there's very obvious spots. So it's a matter of it's easy to find leverage. It's also easy. It's easy to find. I mean, if you want to stack against Taijuan Walker, I think that's perfectly fine. Or go all in on Walker and start taking off the board stacks. I think it's a much more interesting slate on DraftKings than it is on FanDuel.
Well, let's start with Clayton Kershaw. Clayton Kershaw feels like the safest play on the board. Arizona, one of the worst teams in baseball if you look at the stats versus lefties. Now, they don't strike out a ton as a team collectively. I was looking at their seasonal stuff against lefties this year, and let's go ahead and pull it up on the fly because I do have it here. Their WRC plus versus lefties. This is their active hitters for what it's worth. So you kick Starling Marte off the team because he's not playing tonight, at least not for the Arizona. I don't know if the Marlins are playing. I don't think so. Point is, they have a 64 WRC plus. That is really bad. Not very good. If you want to look at the WOBA, the advanced metrics as far as versus lefties, the Diamondbacks are the second worst team in baseball as well. Kershaw has been super solid. He's probably not going to go 9. Nobody's going to go 9 today. But and salary's not a thing, so who cares? And FanDuel, it's a little tight. It's a little tight. You don't get everything you want with Kershaw. He's my favorite guy. I want to kind of make work. But in tournaments, I don't know if it's going to happen. Depending on how lineups come out, and obviously those lineups aren't going to be out until 7 o'clock, so we might get some surprises. But on DK, there's no way I'm not going to have Kershaw as my cash game staple, and he's probably going to be in every single lineup I make. Now I yield to you. More the tournament guy, more the variance guy. What are you doing with Kershaw?
I mean, I'm more of Kershaw than any other pitcher, but that's primarily due to the fact that salary is not an option much, even if you go contrarian. I think the only lineups that I don't have Kershaw in is my White Sox stacks because they're very expensive. But even then, going down to Clevenger at 8.7, like Clevenger is a good pitcher. I think that people, I don't know, we have a 41% ownership projection on Clevenger. I think that may be a little high. I mean, we may see some Kershaw Clevenger lineups with like the Mets stack, like that type of thing. But he's now in the Padres. He's had trouble pitching this year. He's not had good outings, but he's still a top tier pitcher. The Angels other than like maybe like Pujols and Trout, like they still have a high strikeout rate. I mean, we think of the Angels as like, oh, they don't strike out much, but really like the bottom of their order strikes out plenty.
Well, the addition of Adele has helped a lot.
Right, or if Upton's in, that's like 4 strikeouts right there. So
he's on the back end of the back 9 for sure in his career. Yeah, it's been a rough outside of a couple games he had, but for the most part, he's not been very good. And you're right. And Ben Boone, if he kind of jumps that lineup, you don't want Simmons there. He's probably going to crack the lineup. Simmons is not a good hitter, but he's a guy that doesn't strike out. And Fletcher at the top doesn't strike out either. I say at the top, we don't really know because last night, Madden's been doing some things. I don't know if you saw it, but Ohtani led off last night. It was Ohtani, Trout, and then Rendon. I'm not sure if they're going to do that again. We shall see. I think it makes sense to play your best players the most, have them get the most at-bats. It's a wild concept, I know. Yeah, so talking about Clevenger and, I assume he's going to be able to throw 95 to 100 pitches if needed.
Yeah, I mean, he pitched on August 26th. So, I mean, he's fully stretched out and everything. He's going to go as long as he can. The Angels only have under a 4 implied run total. I think Clevenger, if you're not going to pay up for Kershaw on FanDuel at 10.9, I think the price savings, the 1,500 price savings to Clevenger, FanDuel, it's weird because typically we say that FanDuel has the softer hitting pricing.
Not today.
Not today. DK has the softer hitting pricing that in order to get the bats that you may really want, you may have to go down to Clevenger. And it's kind of showed in our projected ownership that Clevenger is projected to actually be slightly higher owned than Kershaw in FanDuel GPPs. But I think on FanDuel, those are their 2 options. I think you could get away with Heaney, but that would be a boom or bust play. If you're going to play Heaney against the Padres,
yeah, 100%, I agree. It's like it's a tricky.
He could have 10 strikeouts, or he could give up 8 runs. So it's one of the 2. But I think those are really the only options on FanDuel. You could take a shot on Danny Duffy on FanDuel. I just don't think it's necessary. Just get the 1,400 and get up to Clevenger. And I think Cease is overpriced on FanDuel. I think he's overpriced on DK. I know he's up against the Royals, but he walks too many guys that he goes 5 innings and maybe he'll get 6 strikeouts. He may put up a decent score, but I just don't think he's worth the price. So on like 1-pitcher sites, I think I'm much more likely Kershaw or Clevenger. And then on 2-pitcher sites, then we start talking about Taijuan Walker.
Yeah, so Duffy has been better this year, but so have the White Sox versus lefties. They've been the absolute best team in baseball versus lefties by a wide margin. Their WRC plus versus lefties is 159. The next best team is 133. And again, if you all aren't aware of WRC plus, weighted runs created plus, 159, 100 is the baseline. 100 is the average. So that means they're 59% better than the average team. That is awesome. Oh man, somebody tweeted out today. Oh God, I can't remember who it was. You know Mondesi for the Royals?
Yeah, because he's constantly in bad optimal lineups. Yeah, I see him all the time.
So
do I play him? No, I don't. I don't care if he could be 1K. I ain't playing. I watch him. I shouldn't be watching him play. He swings worse than Chris Davis.
Both Chris Davises? Which Chris Davis?
Both Chris Davises.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me get here. It was Alex Fast tweeted this out earlier today. This was wild. If I can go ahead and find it. One qualified batter has a WRC plus below 20. Now, again, that means they're 20%, the average baseball player. One is, and it's Adalberto Mondesi, and his WRC plus is 13. 13.
What's Jeff Mathis's? I thought Jeff Mathis was.
I don't know if he qualifies. Yeah, I don't know if he qualifies. But
I remember like Jeff
25.
Mathis had like a 4 or something.
Of course, if he gets on the bases, it's interesting. But like, what is the old adage? You can't steal first base. So let's just walk it back to Clevenger for a second. What are our concerns? Last year, he was electric, 33.8% K rate, 7.4% walk rate, really solid. This year, he's plummeted, and again, smaller sample size, obviously. The K rate's down to 22.6%. The walk rate is up to 11.8%. It's a short slate, and he's more interesting to me on the 2-pitcher sites as opposed to the 1-pitcher sites, and doesn't mean I can't play him on FanDuel, but and he was ousted. Who knows where his head is at? He was out. I mean, Cleveland dumps their players anyways. They don't want to pay anybody, and we'll see that again with Lindor soon enough, I'm sure. But also was part of the whole breaking curfew for COVID and lying about it, I guess. I weren't getting into, but also Plesac was involved in that too. But how concerned are we that he's not the guy he was last year is kind of the question I am asking.
I'm more likely to use a long-term sample size. So to me, Clevenger's fine. 8,700. Just understand that his variance is higher. So like Kershaw, to me, I think he has a narrower range of outcomes. Like you kind of know what you're getting. You could get he could strike out 12 guys, but it's quite unlikely that he strikes out 2 and gives up 6 runs.
Yeah.
Clevenger, on the other hand, I mean, he could get into trouble walk-wise. Typically, it's not necessarily that he's getting blown up. It's just that he's walking 4 or 5 guys, putting guys on the bases, giving up a hit or a double, and then like 3 runs score. But like if you go back to and you combine the 2019, 2020 seasons, he has a 32% K rate. He has 38% K rate against righties, 26% K rate against lefties. Like if Clevenger went out against the Angels and struck out 10, I'm not shocked. And he's 8,700. If this was last year, Clevenger would be like 10-5 on DraftKings, 11K on DraftKings. So I'm hoping that the field goes, I'm a little iffy on Clevenger and I'm going to play someone else instead. So I'm more likely to I'll be whatever the opposite of the ownership of Clevenger. Now, if everyone thought Clevenger was the same as last year, he's going to be 70% owned, then I go the other direction. But I just don't, with Kershaw on the slate, Clevenger's ownership is going to come down. And on DraftKings, with Walker being so cheap, it's going to come down even more. So, like, I do have Clevenger builds without Kershaw. I have Clevenger builds with Walker. I have Clevenger Kershaw builds. I also have one other pitcher that I'm playing that like no one's gonna play.
Well, let me ask you. This might be a gotcha question. Who has the highest K rate on the season among the pitchers pitching today?
The one that I'm rostering.
Okay, so Zach Eflin.
That's correct.
Yeah. So is that real? Because I don't know how real it is. A swinging strike rate.
I don't care if it's real, Dean. It's happening, and he's 3% owned. So
it's real and it's fabulous.
Real,
but I don't know if it's going to be fabulous today.
It's 13. He's projected for 13.
Okay, and also, hey, you have the controls. You can go ahead and show it off. Show off the Weather Edge tool because this kind of speaks to the first 2 games. This is DK specific, obviously not on the FanDuel slate. I guess there's a slate over there in FanDuel, but it's not their main slate. Weather Edge is telling us that hitters are popping in Philadelphia as well in New York. Go ahead and show it off. Show the people what Weather Edge is.
Yeah, I got it here. 23.1% more home runs based on 168 games. So that's a pretty fairly substantial amount.
There's a fire emoji, too, in Philadelphia. I don't know if you see that fire emoji. Does that scare you at all?
Oh, the fire emoji? No, it doesn't really scare me. See, the thing is, with these Weather Edge stuff, the ball has to be put in play. So if Eflin strikes out 10 guys, I mean, like, they're not putting the ball in play.
I don't believe this number is real.
I don't believe it's real either, Dean, but he's 13% owned, and if it happens to be real, then why not? He's 7,800 on DraftKings.
It's a good price.
I don't think you necessarily play him on FanDuel because you can't because it's not on the slate.
Different slate, maybe. I can't speak to that slate. I didn't look at it.
Yeah, they may have an all day, they have an afternoon, whatever type of slate. If everyone bought into Eflin's strikeout rate and Eflin was like 32% owned, I'd be with you. I'm like, I ain't playing him at 32% owned. But if he's around 10% owned, Eflin could end up being the highest scoring pitcher on the slate. He could also be the lowest scoring pitcher on the slate. But that's why you reserve that for GPPs and you get different because it's a 6-game slate. And if you're going to play like a Philly stack, maybe you play Eflin. If you play a chalk stack and play a 10% owned pitcher that puts up 28 points, that's enough differentiation right there.
I'll say something nice about Eflin, though. Again, the swinging strike rate suggests that the Ks are a little too high, 9.6%. But 4.10 ERA, xFIP is 3.02. Sierra is 3.18. The BABIP is 3.65. So he's been like unlucky while getting all these strikeouts.
Right. He should be a 14K pitcher, Dean. It's real, Dean.
So
I don't care if it is or not. It doesn't matter.
He has the lowest hard hit rate on the slate, 27.3%. So, yeah, I mean, he's been good.
You're jinxing him, Dean.
I'm just saying, but I'm just giving the information. There's jinxes aren't. You don't believe in jinxes.
Oh, no. He's going to give up 8 runs now.
You know jinxes aren't real. Come on.
I know, but it's going to happen. It's going to be confirmation bias. He's going to give up like a grand slam to Soto when I have none of him. And then
you should play some Soto.
Screw my game.
You should play. You're playing 0 Soto. Play some Soto.
I'm playing Eflin. How do I play Soto if I'm playing Eflin?
Because you're making more than one lineup.
I'm only making 5 lineups.
Oh, well, okay. Put Soto in one and Eflin in the other.
No, it's one of my Eflin lineups.
Oh, my gosh. And by the way, you could play Soto and Eflin in the same lineup, in theory.
I'm not doing that on a 6-game slate, no.
You could survive that.
A $5,700, $5,600 Soto?
Salary doesn't matter today, so who cares what anybody's salary is?
I want to win. I want to win first.
Summarize the arms. We got to get to the bats in a second.
Okay, so on DK, I mean, the chalk is going to be probably Kershaw-Walker combination. You may get some Clevenger. It's most probably Kershaw plus Walker plus Clevenger, maybe some plus Heaney. I mean, Heaney in the bat is projected well, but also his pitch count is quite high. Like, I think Cardi has him at like 105 pitches, and I don't necessarily, hey, that could be true, but against the Padres, I think that's more of a GPP play. I don't think you'll see that in cash games. You may see some Duffy. I mean, he's one. Is he real? I think he's not real. So I'm playing the White Sox.
Well, I think the White Sox are more real than Duffy. That's my bet.
Right, especially against
they're not that real, but they're realer.
Right, they're going to roll out 9 righties. So I'd like, if you want to try for Duffy, go for it. And then on FanDuel, I think the chalk is easily you're playing Kershaw or Clevenger. And then if you play anyone else, if you play like Heaney there as a one-pitcher site, play whatever chalk bats you want because he's going to be single-digit up.
All right. But the chat's asking, does that mean you only play 5-entry max contest? You play more typically based upon how you're doing content, right?
No. I make lineups based on the contest it's in. Not the number of entries that are allowed have no bearing. Like I could play 3 lineups into the big GPP, but I'm building lineups to win. Like I'm not building lineups. Oh, I only have 3 lineups, so I have to play chalky guys so I get some money back. No, I'll play off the wall whatever, and I'll just build that. So like my 5 lineups today, I have them in the $66 mid stakes, but I also have them in the $4 20 max and the $15 whatever, and I'm building them to try to win first place.
Okay, so one last thing. It says, tell me about Cease. The chat's asking about Cease, and Cease is a 17.7% K rate this season, 4.5 walks per 9 as well, which is too many. 2 homers per 9. What's really interesting is BABIP is 235. Left on base percentage of 87.9%. So super lucky in BABIP, super lucky in left on base percentage. His ERA is 3, and that kind of speaks to his SIERA and his xFIP because his SIERA is 5.59, his xFIP is 5.7. I'm not really. I think Cease is fine, but I think he's overpriced. There's better, and again, pricing doesn't really matter so much. There's better options. I don't believe that. I believe he's gonna be regressed a little bit. Now I think there's talent there. But also, the numbers are suggesting he's been overrated. What do you do?
I think people are targeting Cease because it's the Royals, and Soler may not be in the lineup, which obviously decreases the power, and the Royals barely have power to begin with. So I think this is more of a play of you're playing the pitcher against the Royals more so than playing Cease. It's just that I don't like the price. If Cease was 7,800 or even like 8,000, 8,200, okay, maybe I'd take a shot. On FanDuel, Cease is 8,900 when 500 more, you get the Clevenger. The only I see the only reason to play Cease is to get different and hope that Kershaw and Clevenger, just don't put up big scores.
Well, also because of the Royals and because the aforementioned Adalberto Mondesi is not lineup, and he's terrible. He's striking out a lot. If Bubble Starling's in there, he's striking out a lot as well. And Starling cracks the lineup most definitely. I don't want to say most definitely. Most likely, if Soler is out and Soler is day to day. And it's just a bad lineup overall outside of Merrifield. Franco has some pop too, but that's pretty much it. Like maybe he gets beat up 5 days from today, but the matchup's pretty good. Let's talk catchers real quick. We kind of hinted at it earlier. It's not hard to get Realmuto if you want Realmuto, and he's the clear cut, not even a conversation, best catcher in probably the best weather conditions as well against one of the worst pitchers. So I think you try your best to get Realmuto in your cash lineups and do what you want in tournaments. What say you?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Obviously, FanDuel doesn't have the game on their slate, but I think Realmuto's fine. I think Grandal's fine. I think I'd rather have Realmuto for the $300 more. Austin Nola probably starts against the lefty for the Padres because Castro's a lefty, so they'll probably have Nola, and we have him projected batting 5th. I think he's pretty good for 3,600. And then if you want to get cheap, I think Danny Jansen at 3,100. Against Perez away in Boston, but I don't think you have to get any cheaper. You don't have to go down to anyone.
Yeah, Higashioka is 2.2K, but I just don't know if you need it.
Right, I just don't think you need it. Right, if you want to, obviously play the catcher in your stack type of thing, all things being equal. But I think I think that most likely Grandal is not a cash option because you'll find 300 get the Realmuto. But if you want to save salary and use Nola or Jansen. If you need it, that would be fine. I'd rather get more points at the catcher position. Typically, I think the opposite, but I think we have cheap outfielders that we could use.
Cheap everything.
Spots. Right, like I'd much rather use Roman Quinn as a cheap outfielder in cash games on DraftKings than use like Danny Jansen as my catcher. I'd rather just have Real Muto.
Yeah, so it's like Quinn and Real Muto versus Danny Jansen and
some 5K
Teoscar
guy,
Hernandez or something like that.
Right, yeah, Teoscar or something, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense as far as a cash game perspective. First base is a little tricky. You mentioned Voit versus Gazelman, 3.9K. And I prefer the lefties versus Gazelman, but Voit is pretty cheap, and Gazelman probably only sees him 2 times. Then you get to that bullpen. Rhys Hoskins has been on fire. We saw the fire emoji in Philadelphia. We know Adamo Sanchez could be reverse splitsy. I love the Rhys Hoskins play, but also, I love Abreu versus Duffy, especially if people are rostering Duffy. Muncy, you can throw him at third base as well, too, but lefty power there against Weaver. And I think the Dodgers are going to be overly neglected in the slate, so I think he's super interesting for tournaments. Ditto with Bellinger. Don't know if he's going to play. What are you doing at first base?
Rhys Hoskins, according to the back, and I have it on front of my screen. So if you have the bat projections, you get a lot of this. I like looking at the home run percentages. Because like the projection it breaks it down on like the median of everything. And according to the bat today, Hoskins has the highest chance of all players that hit a home run.
I haven't seen this before. This is the bat?
Yeah.
I know the bat. I'm aware of the bat.
Right, but it's not just, we could see like the fantasy points that you would normally see. Like I have it loaded into Lineup HQ, but it could break it down. There's a projection page where you could break it down to stolen bases and first and hits and walks and strikeouts. And a lot of times, a lot of people in the bat chat that use the bat use the home runs percentages here to bet on props. So you could compare, like, if Hoskins is a 34% chance, according to the bat, then you could go to, like, the DK Sportsbook and see.
If it's a 4-1 or something like that?
Right, yeah. If you're getting, plus 250, which is like, 28% or something like that, that would be a profitable plus EV bet. So a lot of people in the bat chat actually do that. So for me, in cash games, I think just overall on DraftKings, I think Hoskins is the best play on the board, and the bat agrees with it. He has the highest raw projection and one of the highest point per dollar projections at first base.
Is Pete Alonso not going to be played at 3K on DK just because the position's so tough?
Yeah, the problem is that we have salary's not an option. If you're playing Taijuan Walker, you don't need any of these guys. And if you're playing Clevenger, we have cheap outfielders. We have McNeil and Davis at the other 2 spots for the Mets. But look at the first basemen that you're going to have to – if you play Pete Alonso, you're going to have to fade Hoskins, Bellinger, Muncy, Guerrero, Voit, Thames, Abreu, Hosmer. You have Encarnacion.
There's a big opportunity cost. It doesn't mean Alonso can't get there too, because he's a guy, in theory, who can bang out a couple homers.
Right, of course. But just understand that the opportunity cost at first base is extremely high, and it's not as much so at second and third.
Talk about second, Keystone position. Open it up.
Second is such garbage today. I truthfully, I think for like cash games, I think there's 2 options. I think you're going down and you're just taking McNeil. I don't care if it's lefty.
Yeah.
He's leading off and he's 2,500. He should even lefty. He should be like 3,600, like in this matchup. So like if he's better than a punt, like Jose Peraza is more expensive.
He's competent. Yeah, McNeil's a competent stick. Right. He'll give you a professional bet.
Right. But he's more expensive than Jonathan Arose, 3,500 for the Red Sox. So if you need to save money, this is the position to save money in. If you want to spend up, I think DJ LeMahieu is fine. He's not a must-have. I think VR batting in the middle of the Toronto lineup is fine. It's like Segura is fine. Like I'm not a big fan of
Biggio's fine. If you're playing Walker, you can possibly have money for Biggio.
Right, but if you want to play like Michael Chavis, if he's in the lineup at 3,800, it's just a matter of I don't think I'm getting anything for the money that I'm spending. I don't think the difference between McNeil and LeMahieu is $1,800 worth of production from a median perspective. This is for like cash games that I'll just take the savings at second base because there's really no one that I feel like I must have.
Yeah, DJ LeMahieu is not somebody you need, but if you have the money for it, fine. Gazelman better versus righties than versus lefties. Gazelman almost definitely only sees him twice. Almost definitely does not see him a third time around. And the Yankees are really well positioned, at least LeMahieu is, to get those 5 ABs leading off on the road. So he's going to get 3 at-bats almost definitely from the bullpen. So, yeah, 5 at-bats from LeMahieu. Perfectly fine. I see LeMahieu. They're talking about him in the chat. But also Biggio, I don't care the lefty-on-lefty thing against Martin Perez because that bullpen's bad. He's another guy. Decent chance he sees 3 ABs versus the bullpen, 2 or 3. VR, jack in the bag potential every single time he goes out there. Last time I checked, he was leading the league in stolen bases at 9, but that was about 3 or 4 days ago or so. But we know he's got the speed. Third base, hot corner. What do you have for me?
I think third base, the 2 options are easy. You're either paying up for Machado or you're paying down for JD Davis, and then you're done. Everything else would be GPP in a stack, everything. I think that the clear chalk is Machado against the lefty and Heaney. The Angels, that's a good hitting ballpark. But also JD Davis is $2,800. In this matchup, he should be like $4,400 against the lefty with the wind blowing out. He's the best point per dollar play at third base. But, is he even necessary? So depending on your build, if you're playing Walker, you're fitting in probably Machado. And if you're not playing Walker as your SP2 on DraftKings, you're probably playing JD Davis. So to me, that's kind of the 2v2 type of option. I think JD Davis has a better point per dollar median, which shows right here. But Machado obviously has the higher upside. But everyone else, if you wanted to play Max Muncy, who's playing Max Muncy today? Urshela in your Yankee stacks, Moncada in your White Sox stacks. If you want to play Todd Frazier instead of JD Davis, no one's playing him, even though he's on the Mets. Cabrera, there are other guys to play, but they don't rate out all that well.
Yeah, I like Heaney, but his concern, of course, is the ready power he yields. And as of right now, I'm a little bit off the Padres just based on the field, and that kind of is concerning to me. And that bullpen's not great either. So even if Heaney's okay, we saw it happen last night. Doesn't mean it's going to happen today, but that bullpen might implode against all that power on that San Diego side. And San Diego's one of the best teams in baseball against lefties as a collective as well. I like Machado's fine, but I feel like I'm going to have less in the field, and I'm a little bit concerned about that. I think I like Muncy more than him, which again might be a mistake. But like you said, on DK, especially, you don't need salary everywhere. But JD Davis at 2.8K, batting second versus Happ, just seems egregiously priced. Of course, you can play Frazier as well if you want, batting cleanup, if you have a few extra dollars. Let's jump back to shortstop. What do you have for me?
Okay, shortstop. The chalk is Tatis. They're underpricing him at 5,200, even against the lefty. He probably should be 5,700. If you don't want to pay up for Tatis, I think the next best option, paying down, would be for Didi Gregorius at 4,400 against Anibal Sanchez. Obviously, you could play VR at shortstop also, but I'd much rather find the 300 to get Gregorius. And then the GPP options would be Seager, Turner, Bogarts, because they're all in the same range of Tatis, but Tatis is just so much of a better player than these guys from a median perspective. No one's playing Tim Anderson at 5,500, where Tatis is 5,200.
And salary doesn't matter. They see 5.5, I can't play. Who cares? He can be 6K. Who cares?
But play him in a stack, if anything, or you're playing him over Tatis to get different in a chalkier lineup. And then obviously the paydown option that most projection systems will still have based on his last year's production is good old Alberto Mondesi.
Yeah.
At 3K. He's the punt play, but thank God on this slate you don't need a shortstop punt play.
Yeah, you don't need it. You don't need it at all. And again, but let me ask you this: I don't know if you mentioned Bogarts or not. You ran up a couple guys, and how are you handling what we're projecting to be Walker, DK specific? Obviously, where he's 4.8K, just the price is wrong. Why not just stack Boston? Is that what the kids call leverage play?
That's direct leverage. You can do that.
Is that something you're considering?
It, but you can. That's perfectly. Hey, you could do it for Kershaw, right? But typically you're not stacking
Walker's
against
not Kershaw, but I hear what
pitchers.
you're saying.
Right,
yeah.
right. The thing is that let's say Kershaw doesn't have a good game. It doesn't mean the stack is the top scoring stack, because not a good game for Kershaw could be in 5 innings, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts, and he gives up 4 runs. But the stat, he's good enough that he doesn't get blown up for 9 runs.
And that bullpen's very good.
Right. But Taijuan Walker, if he gave up 10 runs today, it's not like I'm shocked or anything. And if he's going to be high owned as the cheap SP2, I'm more inclined to attack cheap SP2s. The problem this slate, for me, I'm making the choice. So I tend to make, just like I'm not playing any Soto, it's not because I don't like Soto. It's just because I'm making other choices. I'm only playing 5 lineups, and I'm deciding I'm going to stack the Dodgers. I'm going to stack the White Sox. I'm going to stack some of these expensive teams that other people aren't playing because the Phillies are chalky and the Blue Jays are chalky. But in order to stack those expensive teams, I need to play chalk Taijuan Walker. But if you wanted to think the opposite way and go, I'm going to stack the Phillies, but I'm going to stack the Phillies with the Red Sox against chalk Walker, that it gives you the same amount of leverage either way. It's just deciding which way to go. Maybe if I was playing 100 lineups, maybe I do play Walker, and I do have what Stevie would call hedge stacks, and play a couple of Boston stacks also. But since I'm playing 5 lineups and I'm hand building, I'm just like, okay, I'm going to go with Walker. But I understand completely, if you want to stack the Red Sox as leverage against him, that's perfectly fine.
In chat, they're asking for a couple of Yahoo plays. I did do my Yahoo rankings. I'll go back later when the lineups are out and update them. But as of right now, based on our projected lineups, some of the value plays over there, it's a much tighter cap. Understand that it's not like playing on DK. It's a totally different game today and many days. Just the way their salaries go. Ketel Marte, I don't want to pick on Kershaw, but second base is not a strong position. But he's $1 above the floor. He's $8. You can play Kershaw and Ketel Marte together if you want to. Muncy is $16 at first base. I like that price a good bit as well. Catcher, you can punt the catcher with Vasquez, who's $2 above the floor at $9, or Jansen at $10. Those are my favorite catcher plays over there. And we're going to talk about the outfield. This will segue to you talking about your favorite outfielders. But JD Martinez is $13 over there, which is a really, really fair price. I like him a good bit on Yahoo specifically. All right, what do you have as far as outfielders?
Okay, so for outfield, now that we have Roman Quinn leading off for the Phillies, he's going to be the chalky, cash game. I mean, I don't think you need Roman Quinn as a one-off at 2,300 at DraftKings. But to me, I think the top outfielder of the entire slate is Bryce Harper at 6,000. I actually think, even though according to the bat he projects slightly lower than Soto, I think his upside against Anibal Sanchez is the highest. And obviously, if I'm making the choice to play Eflin and fade Soto, I'm going to play some expensive outfielders. So, I mean, I think Bryce Harper, and we take a look at even the bat projections. I mean, the top home run projections from the bat are Hoskins, Soto, Harper, Machado, Tatis, Bruce, Trout, Alonso, Real Muto. I mean, all the guys that we're mentioning, all the usual suspects. So, I'm prioritizing Harper over Soto, but you could play a lineup with both of them in it, right? On this type of slate on DraftKings. So I don't think you're playing McNeil in the outfield. If you're playing him for 2,500, you're playing him at second base.
100% second base.
I think the other cheap guy that you could play as a one-off in GPPs is Jay Bruce. He's batting 7th for the home team, so he's fine for cash games. You can use him in cash games, but I'd rather use Quinn batting first. Bruce is kind of home run or bust, and he may only get 3 at-bats at home. He may not get as many at-bats, so I think of him more of his GPP play on this slate. If Quinn wasn't leading off, I would say Jay Bruce is fine, much better in cash now because you need someone that cheap. And then the other guys would be anyone in the outfield for the Blue Jays. Grichuk, Teoscar Hernandez. You could play both of them.
They're more appealing even on FanDuel, where the cap is tighter. I'm not sure if you built over there on FanDuel just yet, but Gurriel is 2.9K, Grichuk 3.4. Eloy Jimenez, I know you talked about your White Sox. I didn't mean to cut you off. I apologize. We got to go and wrap up for crunch time in just a second. Eloy's a pretty solid bat, 3.8K. We talked about picking on Duffy. We are both in agreement that we like the power for Chicago more than we like Duffy, which is, I guess, kind of sort of different on this slate. We shall see as far as ownership. Obviously, the ownership projection right now is going to change. It's fluid depending on information as we get closer and closer to lock, especially on FanDuel. Give me your final thoughts as far as your favorite stacks and how we should tackle the slate as we pitch it off to crunch time.
Okay, just to mention on the FanDuel slate, the Red Sox will be chalk because they're underpriced. So JD and Devers and all those guys, those are FanDuel plays. And then obviously Bellinger in the outfield, Bellinger, Pollock, the Dodgers. Betts is going to be lower owned, so you could take a shot on that. So to me, the expensive stacks that I'm playing today for leverage, meaning that because the Phillies and everything is chalk, are the Dodgers and the White Sox. And I think The Yankees are a cheap stack against the Gazelman. That'll be a little off the board. And I'm much more likely to, if you're going to stack the Padres, put in someone like Profar or some guy at the bottom of the lineup because they're going to be chalky. But the Phillies are the chalk. The Blue Jays are the chalk. Mets one-offs. If you get away from that type of build and Taijuan Walker, that'll give you the most amount of leverage on DK.
All right, coming up next, you got Cardi along with Tuttle. Freeman, but Cardi, Tuttle, and Roth telling you what's going down weather-wise as well, taking you guys off to lock on DK. They'll, of course, touch on the FanDuel slate as well. He was Blender. I was Dean. This was baseball. Thank you all for watching. Hit the like button on your way out. Press it, whatever you want to do. Just got to make it happen. Get the thumb up there. Thank you, Devin, for producing the show. We're getting out of here. Holler.